Good morning, and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at some pitching for today, the 17th of September. We do have a 5-game day slate or early slate, and then an 8-game main slate this evening. I do believe there's some potential weather issues. I'm not sure if the weather station's been updated yet. We do have some updates, some weather in New York, Minnesota, Kansas City, and Colorado. We did see Colorado get delayed in game last night when Eury Perez was throwing an absolute gem. He did not come back out after the delay, which is a little annoying, but overall it looks like the weather shouldn't be too terrible to deal with. Very, very slight PPD risk in all those locations. Which is a little abnormal. Generally, when we have a 20% delay risk, we don't really see any PPD risk. So even a 5% risk is kind of something to monitor. I guess that means some of those storms could flare up a little earlier or be a little more aggressive than at first predicted. Wind blowing out in Tampa Bay, obviously one of the better ballparks for offenses. Colorado, winds blowing in and in the 60s. Might not be the best spot for hitting tonight. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure off the top of my head who's pitching. Maybe Ryan Weathers. But yeah, overall, weather's fine. St. Louis is still in the 90s. That's crazy. That's a day game. Still in the 90s in St. Louis with winds blowing out slightly. Very interesting. But this is a first look at the pitching options on the slate. And I will be looking at DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you play in FanDuel, I'll cut my pool in half or so. Pricing isn't quite as tight. You don't have to be as creative. It allows you to get stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. Let's look at this quick 5-gamer. Not a lot to love, to be honest, from a pitching standpoint. Weather's decent for hitting in Pittsburgh too, just not exciting. Chicago, Pittsburgh, Boyd's definitely going to be somewhat popular, if not the most popular. He hasn't looked good in a while, month and a half really. A little over a month ago, had almost a 20, which was decent, but a lot of his appearances since then just not the greatest. Did have 8 strikeouts against the Giants, but allowed 5 runs. He's made 2 starts against Pittsburgh, been pretty solid. He's one of those ones that probably feels like a high floor play. The recent trend's just not the greatest. Because it's 5-game slate, he's going to be in my pool, but it's not one that I'll snap jamming into my lineups. I can tell you that. Johan Oviedo, been pretty decent. Walks are up. Hasn't really been giving up hits. So it might not be a bad spot to get a little bit of exposure to him. I don't really want to be too exposed, though. Cincy St. Louis, Brady Singer, somebody that's had some pretty strong games. Been pretty solid against St. Louis. He only won 1 of the 3 starts, but averaging just over 20 fantasy points. Over a K per inning. So he's had some strong numbers. Hasn't been as good on the road this season. And I did just talk about how warm it is in St. Louis. I'm going to use some Singer, but it's probably going to be less than the field. I'm interested to see what his ownership projection is. Payante, not somebody I want to use, even though Cincinnati can struggle quite a bit. I'm fine avoiding him at this point. Baltimore and the White Sox. The Baltimore takes on a left-handed pitcher. Martin Perez, last 2 haven't been all that good. It's pretty solid against New York, great against Kansas City, pretty solid against Atlanta. It's definitely somebody I'm going to use. He's been really good at home with the White Sox, and that's where he's at today. And we know that Baltimore can struggle with left-handed pitching. Obviously, it's a different lineup these days for the Orioles, but still, I'm fine with going with Martin Perez. On the other side, Tyler Wells has looked pretty good in his 2 appearances in his return. I will be utilizing him against the White Sox, mostly because it is a 5-gamer. If it was a full slate, decent chance that I wouldn't use him, but I think he fits today. Verlander against Arizona, he's been throwing the ball better. Struggled a bit against Arizona. Hasn't been very good on the road. I'm going to pass on Verlander. Fott is somebody I will be utilizing, coming off of a horrendous start, but he's one with massive home road splits. He gets to pitch at home today. Just 3 home runs allowed in 82 innings at home. It's such a weird split when he's giving up 21 on the road. But we're just going to live with it at this point. Has struggled a little bit against San Francisco this season. Nearly a 17, but then he must have had a real rough start. Yeah. So I'm going to get there just because I love the price tag on this slate. And Atlanta, Washington, I will be using Hurston Waldrop. Coming off a rough start, but set some pretty good ones. Recent trend's not the greatest, even though he hasn't been allowing runs. That last start's a little weird. Walks have been up, and that's a huge red flag for me. I'm going to be using him just because we need to, but I'm not a big fan of that sudden increase in walk rate. Generally, things like that come with, could be injury, but I doubt it's an injury. I think it's just a bit of a wall. Long season. He was pitching in the minors too, and then leading up to, him stepping into the major league rotation every 5 days. Young arms can hit walls like that, and control is the first thing to go. Main slate-wise, Toronto, Tampa Bay. Kevin Gausman, coming off of an absolutely elite performance, has been super strong. He has actually been better when on the road, which is where he's at today. Did struggle against Tampa Bay the first time he faced them. I'm not in love with the play, but I am using him. He just has so much upside that I think it's a mistake to not use him. On the other side, Ian Seymour, he's a guy that's shown some serious upside. I just have no desire to use him against Toronto. He hasn't been great in this ballpark. Hasn't been terrible either. He hasn't actually made an actual start at home yet, but when pitching, he has not been all that great at home. San Diego and the Mets. David Peterson is one of those guys that I just seem to not be able to get right recently. I think he's fine. I'm just not interested in really picking on San Diego. They can struggle against left-handed pitching, but they don't really strike out that a whole lot. So, I guess you can give or take on Peterson. He's probably fine. I'm just not sure that I want to include him in my pitcher pool. On the other side, Nick Pivetta. I love the upside. There's a lot of volatility to it, especially on the road. If this matchup was at home, I would be all about him. His road numbers aren't terrible by any means. So he's definitely somebody I like. Somebody I probably play a little too much. He had 3 double-digit strikeout games this year, but in the past, it felt like he just had a bunch more of random 12 strikeout games. But also in the past, he gave up more home runs than he's given up, at this point. With that said, he's still probably likely to give up a home run to the Mets in this one. New York, Minnesota, little rain chances here. Luis Gil and Taj Bradley. Taj Bradley had some decent looks recently. Hit a bit of a wall in a couple of starts, but I just don't think it's a good spot. 2 starts against the Yankees this season. Struggled. Far more walks than strikeouts. Just not a great spot. So I will pass. On the other side, Luis Gil, coming off of his best start this year. The big worry, though, walks. And I don't think there's enough strikeouts right now to offset those walks. Didn't allow a hit or a run in the last start and still put up 23. Just 23 because of the high walk rate. I'm just not banking on him being able to match this, while he doesn't have strikeouts and a high walk rate. I don't think I'm going to be using Luis Gil, which is weird to say. I mean, dude's 4-1, 2.83 ERA. His road number is really strong. Average against a 183. Just a lot of base runners and just not enough strikeouts right now. So I'm going to end up passing on Luis Gil. Feels weird just because I think the Yankees probably pick up the win somewhat easily. Angels Brewers. Jose Soriano on the road is generally a play for me. I don't really know that I want to be using him against the Brewers. Last 2 starts have been bad, but his previous 2 starts on the road were excellent. So I just don't really want to pick on Milwaukee. Unless they come on with a watered-down lineup to rest a bunch of guys, I don't think I'm getting there. Brandon Woodruff on the other side, we're going to go right back to him. His recent trends prior to his last start were kind of downgrading his performances, but then he bounced back last time with an absolutely dominant outing. Still, likely to pitch, 6 innings max probably, and probably stay in the mid-80s for pitch count, which is obviously, definitely a worry. But he showed, just last start what kind of upside he has, and we're going to go to that. Peralta dominated last night, so we're going to stay on that train. Seattle, Kansas City, Cole Reagans. Coming off the IL, hit a left rotator cuff strain, kept him out a while. 56 pitches in the last outing, so he's probably going to be somewhat limited. I'm curious to see how he performs in his return, but I'm not going to be utilizing him. Bryce Miller coming off an 11 strikeout performance, but he still gave up 6 runs. He just has not been good, and I don't see him striking out 11 against the Royals, who just don't strike out. So for me, it's an easy pass on him. Not an easy pass on Reagans, but I really want to, wait and see. DeGrom versus Javier. DeGrom 3 starts against Houston, averaging 24 fantasy points. Strikeouts have been there. Houston lineup weakened without Jordan. It's a big injury for them. I do hope he can come back for the postseason. He is one of my favorite hitters in baseball. He's just so good at what he does. DeGrom hasn't been perfect by any means, but the upside's still there, so he is somebody I want to use. I'm not afraid of Houston enough to, back down on my shares of DeGrom. On the other side, Christian Javier. A couple of not-so-great starts in a row. One plus in the last start is that he avoided the walks for the most part. Just one. Walks have been an issue in his return. I think there's upside, so I am going to use Javier. I'm not overly afraid of Texas. I'm more afraid of Javier just walking too many guys. That is my worry, but the upside is just too good for me. I'm going to use Christian Javier this evening. Miami, Colorado. Ryan Weathers is the one starting. Looked phenomenal, actually. I thought he looked really good against the Nationals last start. 68 pitches. We kind of figured he was probably going to be somewhat limited. I thought he probably had a few more pitches than that in him, but we should see an increase into the 80s potentially. It is Coors. There is obviously a worry there, but I like it. We used Yuri Perez last night. I am going to go with Ryan Weathers this evening. McCade Brown priced all the way down to $4,500. People are probably going to ask about him. I'm not utilizing him. I just don't think there's enough upside. There's plenty of other 6K pitchers on the slate that actually make sense. Dodgers, Phillies. Blake Snell obviously can dominate at any point, can struggle at any point. Pittsburgh being an example. I'm going to utilize him just because there are Ks in this lineup. There's upside. His numbers at home have been phenomenal. Luzardo, similar version to Blake Snell. I'm going to utilize him. He's coming in, throwing the ball really well. Strikeouts, etc. I will use him against the Dodgers. Suarez was awesome. Sanchez was okay. Luzardo can certainly get it done too. But Snell and Luzardo are very similar. Very volatile guys with huge ceilings. But there we have it. There's our first look at pitching. If you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc. I'll put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's R-A-Z, for 10% off monthly. And I will drop a link to the DFS Army merch store. You can check out my hoodie, my design, and some of the other stuff we have on the site. And as always, best of luck, everybody.